All right, I think we are all set then. Thank you guys for your patience. So we will go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026-2027 Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, community discussion. I'm Danny O'Connell, Housing Analyst with the City of Roseville, and I administer our CDBG grant program. If you are joining us virtually, if you can please take a moment to enter your name and email address into the chat. Also, in a moment, we will be posting today's agenda in that chat for you. Okay, so the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, is a federal program from HUD that helps reduce poverty and strengthen communities. The purpose of the program is to reduce poverty and strengthen communities by supporting safe housing and suitable living environments and expand economic opportunities. The City of Roseville became a CDBG entitlement jurisdiction in 1986. Each year, the city receives federal funding to support housing programs, public facilities, accessibility improvements, planning, and public services that benefit low-income residents. As part of the program, the city prepares a 5-year consolidated plan to identify community needs, available resources, and long-term goals. The current plan was adopted in 2025 and is implemented through the annual action plans that outlines how funds are used each year. Okay. The city began developing the 2025-2029 consolidated plan in 2024 and engaged the community throughout the process. Feedback from residents and service providers consistently highlighted two major needs: affordable housing, as well as more services and shelter options for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. As a result, these areas were identified as the top priorities for low and moderate income residents and special populations in Roseville. 8 additional priority needs were established in the creation of the 5-year plan. They are considered a low priority, still important, but not the main focus. They include services for seniors and persons with disabilities, including but not limited to food and nutrition, mental health treatment, healthcare, transportation, and independent living assistance. Let's see. Services for low and moderate income youth, such as provisions of services for youth, including but not limited to mental health wellness programs, recreational programs, and health and education programs. Fair housing services to provide fair housing services to provide fair housing information and services for low and moderate income persons and support compliance with the federal and state fair housing laws. Maintenance of existing affordable housing stock by continuing operation of the city's owner-occupied housing rehab program to provide assistance to low and moderate income homeowners. Services for individuals and families that are victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, or stalking. Acquisition or rehabilitation of housing for persons with disabilities. Development or rehabilitation of infrastructure and or public facilities serving low and moderate income neighborhoods or persons. And last one, the provision of food and nutrition services to low and moderate income residents of the city of Roseville. Activities that are awarded CDBG funds during the 2025-2029 consolidated planning period must be related to one of the priority needs. Okay. Okay. Each priority need is translated into specific goals that describe how the city intends to address that need. The goals in the current 5-year consolidated plan are as follows. Number 1, addressing homelessness, providing services, shelter, and housing for persons experiencing or at risk of homelessness in Roseville. Number 2, affordable rental housing, increase and sustain the affordable housing stock in Roseville. Number 3, provisions of services for low-income persons, provisions of needed services for low and moderate income seniors, youth, victims of domestic violence or sexual assault, and persons with disabilities. Number 4, provide fair housing services, promote access to fair housing information within the community, educate tenants and landlords regarding rights and responsibilities under federal, state fair housing laws. Number 5, rehabilitation of owner-occupied housing, provide assistance to low and moderate income households for the rehabilitation of single-family owner-occupied homes. The city administers an owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program for this purpose. Number 6, infrastructure accessibility improvements, improve streets and sidewalks in low and moderate income neighborhoods to enhance pedestrian safety and to reduce architectural barriers for persons with mobility impairments. Okay. Okay, so you've just seen an overview of the city's priority needs based on HUD requirements, data, and community input. But we know those priorities can look different depending on where you are and who you serve. Hearing your perspective helps us understand what is urgently locally. These questions help ground our discussion in real life experiences. As you respond, think about your experiences, connect to the priorities we just reviewed, especially homelessness, affordable housing, and access to services. So you will find a one-page summary if you are here with us today in front of you, or if you're here virtually, a link will be provided in the chat. This outlines the city's locally defined critical needs and goals. It's there as a guide as you think through the discussion questions. So at this time, we'll go ahead and take a pause and open it up for discussion, and we will unmute everybody. Oh, well, okay. Okay. All right, and we'll get that in the chat in just one moment. Okay. So you guys do have some of the prior or what we're looking for. It's these goals, right, Christine? The 6 right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because yeah, you're right. Okay. And then where's my little cheat sheet? Okay, so I'll let you guys read through those. Give you just another second.
Yeah, so we really appreciate you guys being here, in person and online. We really just want to have a discussion about your opinions.
Like for example, for number 1, issues surrounding like shelter availability, supportive services, transitions to permanent housing. What are some of those biggest barriers, or do you guys have any input for those with the agencies that you're in?
Can I start?
Sure.
Okay. My name's Paul Comiskey. I'm with the Roseville Advocate for the Homeless. And I estimate that there are probably at least 300 people who sleep on our streets every day. And I've tried to help a number of them. I have some of them living in my house right now who had been living on the streets for years. One gentleman got 2000 living on the streets of Roseville for 6. There were no so I some Seems to flow to, um, so. If make some money available, um, to either build or look for a place like that. Um,
So
but
to clarify, it's not a shelter, it's actually permanent supportive housing.
well, that's what I'm.
It's permanent supportive housing, so just so you're aware, and it's a state funded program, so,
Okay.
yeah, but so that's so you are recommending that as a picture.
And yes, for the city to ask for enough money so that if there is an opportunity, if another hotel is going under, or a motel, or a school, or any building like that, it could fairly easily be converted into that permanent housing, that be available for that.
Great.
And second, the thing is kind of invisible. And that is the families with students. We have, um, we have 750, um, families in Placer County. Probably there are many of them in Roseville who, are homeless, and they're not visible like the guy I saw sleeping right on the street when I was walking here. Uh, They're doubled and tripled up in housing, and they're living in tents, they're living in cars. But their attempts to go to school and function are disastrous. And I don't know, that would probably go to the second thing that you put for your priorities is affordable rental housing.
Affordable rental, right?
Right now, I was trying to get a man housing not too long ago, a guy named James. James is a tall fellow, he's more than 6 feet tall. He's been very severely schizophrenic. He's been living on the streets here in Roosevelt all his life. He's so mentally ill that he can't. He just lays down wherever he is and sleeps. He lives like an animal. I can't imagine how he really survives. And I said, I'm going to help James. I'm a lawyer, so I started helping him with a criminal case he had. And I started taking him I went to his Turning Point counselor and got a release signed by him. And I tried to get all the things signed so I can try to help James. And I was driving him. I drove him to the county one day after many, many phone calls to all kinds of places to try to get him housing. And finally, when I went out to the guy, I started taking him there in person, and the woman told me, "We'll take him over here, right here in Roseville. It's about 2 blocks from my office." I was right there. So then I came back here, and the poor people there could do absolutely nothing for me. I told them we're not taking any of these um, uh, um, applications anymore for whatever that program is that would take 1/3 of your income.
Mhm.
He's on SSI. He could get it. He could get in. He could get into that housing. But it's all that money's all gone or something. It's not happening.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any of that money that could be supplemented with this.
Okay,
Something like that ought to be done.
right.
I don't know if there would be funding, the, for a place for civilian mentally ill people. But we do have a lot of heroes that, and who live on the streets and have been there for years. And they're never gonna go anywhere else unless something really happens.
Right.
So, I really think that I think you that totally agree with what you identify as the highest priority needs. But and these other needs are laudable, but those are the needs on the low priority list are needs that many um, community resources would support. They would not need so much government support. And so I would also recommend that the bulk of the money would go to the top two needs that you've identified.
Okay, well, good. Okay. Thank you for that input.
Are we using your microphone and stuff?
Yes, and so they can't hear me because we couldn't use that.
So do you want to maybe move a little closer if the to?
Yeah, I can. Do you guys, did you guys have some input? You guys want to? Yes, okay. I know, it's, I know. Oh, okay, okay. Yes, perfect.
I don't know if this money could be used for that, but that would be a wonderful thing to have some money for that too.
Right. Okay. Would either of you guys like to go next, or do you want me to ask online?
No, you could ask online and we can go back. to it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other input? Were you guys able to read over that question, those questions that Christine had sent over? Stacy did. Okay. Go ahead, Stacy.
Hi, so just kind of hitting on bullet 3. I work with transitional age youth, girls specifically, and a lot of the partner agencies have shut their doors, and I think more are going to. So we're getting a greater influx of calls from 211. So it feels like there's a little bit of coverage there, or definitely anticipated to be one.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else online have anything to add? Okay. Would either of you ladies like to? Go.
Yes, to number 3, yeah. Jenny Roberts with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I think in one of your priority areas, you mentioned mental health, education with youth. We're seeing the exact same thing. Data has shown from Mental Health America that the majority of youth, 55%, have endured emotional abuse at home, unfortunately. And our program partner youth one-to-one with a trusted mentor in their life. We call them a big brother or a big sister. And our research shows that having that trusted person can help their mental health. We know that impacts, again, school and just their overall wellness as a person. Additionally, historically, unfortunately, because our bigs are just community members, like all of us, they haven't historically had the skill set to be able to deal with kids that have severe mental illnesses. So our most at-risk youth, we haven't been able to help. So one area that we're expanding into is really having a clinical caseworker on staff that can help provide the direct service, mental support services for those kids that most need a mentor and build that referral network with health professionals. So again, the guidance would be around the mental health to continue to build that infrastructure for our youth through a variety of programs.
Okay, good.
No, I can, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for having us, Indian Infante Latino Leadership. And I do agree with everything that's on this document.
And thank you for everything that you're doing for the unhoused. Our organization supports the Latino community here in Placer. We've been here 18 years. We did receive some funding last year and the year before. We're very thankful for it. That funding was primarily used to support families that are struggling to pay the rent. They've had some emergency, maybe loss of a job, but it is a one-time funding for them to be able to supplement some rental assistance. I do want to say that the need is higher than what we're able to do just because of the amount of folks that are really struggling financially because of the economy, loss of jobs, wages, just a lot of out things that are happening now in the world that are very traumatizing to our community specifically. And so I do want to say that I do see these needs and they continue to be, I do see programs that are helping and supporting, but because the needs are so high,
Mhm.
that's where I feel like there are still, not even I feel, we see a lot of gaps in families in despair, because they just do not know. We've had a lot of families where they were renting a home for many, many years. I'm sure you guys hear this from the community and the house of home, and then they have nowhere else to go. So the doubling up, tripling up, you have families living in garages that people are renting out, probably not following some of the, legalities of being landlords. We actually had 4 families renting one garage, and each of the families I think was paying about $700 and sleeping on the floor. And just the amount of like sir, but just the unseen things that are happening out in the community because of the financial strain. So I'm thankful that this is happening. I do have a question though. I know you guys put out the information, and for those that have applied before, we get the ongoing emails. But has there been an assessment to see what organizations might benefit from these funds, or is it just the people that come forward to request the funds from the city for this specific funding? Yeah, because I think especially our organization is going to be losing most of our funding coming up in June 2026, just with behavioral health services and just all of that money shifting into other programs, which is really going to be affecting prevention and intervention. Our organization, our focus is to help people before they're extremely ill, right? And so we will be losing a lot of that funding as other nonprofits in the community as well. So doomsday is coming. And so I'm hoping that we can apply for more funding to be able to support our community. But yeah.
Thank you.
Question, I just want to answer.
Yeah.
Question. We really need to try and get out information about CDBG, motivation, farm.
Yes.
I think sometimes certain organizations they don't have the benefit to look for and manage these funding sources, federal funds. And as you already had as you know, can to manage some things and do it's so to do it's for $15,000 when they really want to do all this work, so I think, they have to be comfortable with it and scared by the idea of managing both.
One of the things that I do too for organizations that maybe do all of the resources to be able to subcontract with other small organizations.
And
Yes.
so that's a great idea.
Yes, thank you. Okay, anybody else like to add anything else that is on any of the questions or the list?
Just all the funding process. Does that mean that funding is given at one time? Funding is done for 5 years? Is that what are we gonna do?
The 5 year.
And it's from, pay for, so the plan is So there's still annual plans within the 5 plans, so there's 5 plans within. So, but we established the needs at the beginning of the 5 year process. And then we kind of have to follow these needs, but make sure that you're funding within those needs. Yeah.
Okay, well, we actually are supposed to get started on the second part of this at 3:45. We do have a couple of minutes, so in case anybody wants to join, maybe we'll just take a quick 5 minute break or a couple minutes. I just don't want anybody to miss out on the 3:45. Okay, so everybody online, we'll just be back in just a few minutes. And welcome to the 2026-2027 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing, or HPRR application workshop. I'm Danny O'Connell, housing analyst with the City of Roseville. I administer our CDBG grant program. Also with us today, we have Christine Fales, who will be presenting the HPRR funds later on in the slides. Just a side note, this meeting will also be recorded. Okay, a couple housekeeping items. Trisha Isom, the city's housing manager, is also here and will be monitoring raised hands in the chat. We will be turning off cameras and muting everyone just in a moment. If you do have questions, you can click on the hand icon on the taskbar. If you are typing a question in the chat, you can do so at any time. There will be a couple points where we will pause the presentation for any questions. If you are here virtually with us, if you can please take a moment and enter your name and email address in the chat. Just in this presentation, if you take just look it over, so you can refer to the agenda in front of you. If you're joining us virtually, the link will be posted in the chat. The Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, is a federal program administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The purpose of the program is to reduce poverty and its effects in development and develop viable communities by providing decent, safe, and sanitary housing, providing a suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunities. The program promotes affordable housing and community development programs for low-income residents. Okay. Local critical needs were discussed in the previous meeting. As discussed, the highest priority needs are shelter, housing, and services to address homelessness, as well as acquisition, rehabilitation, and/or development of affordable rental housing. Okay, all programs that receive CDBG funding must meet one of the HUD national objectives. The national objectives of the grant are to benefit low to moderate income persons and/or household, aid in the prevention or elimination of slum and blight, and/or meet an urgent community need that threatens the health or welfare of residents. This objective is rarely used and is generally associated with disasters. Every project, program, or activity that receives CDBG funds must meet two criteria. The project must meet a national objective, and it must also be an eligible activity, which we'll talk about later in the slides. Okay, eligible subrecipients. Those eligible to apply include city departments, nonprofit organizations, governmental agencies that are independent of the City of Roseville, and for-profit entities that are authorized under federal code. Those who are awarded funds are known as subrecipients. Okay, next we will go over how CDBG funds can be used. First, each activity must meet one of the national objectives for the program discussed in the previous slides. Funds must serve low to moderate income residents. Residents served must have a household income that is equal to or less than 80% of the area's household median income for that household size. As of April 2025, the HUD income limit for a 4-person household in Placer County is $102,900. A link to those income limits is in the chat. Okay, CDBG funds may be used for activities which include but are not limited to acquisition of real property, relocation and demolition, rehabilitation of residential and non-residential structures, construction of public facilities and improvements such as water and sewer facilities, streets, neighborhood centers, and the conversion of school buildings for eligible purposes, public services within certain limits, activities relating to energy conservation and renewable energy resources, and provision of the assistance to profit motivated businesses to carry out the economic development and job creation retention activities. Other activities may be eligible, but please contact program staff if you have questions about those additional activities. Okay. Limited clientele activities primarily benefit low-income populations or exclusively benefit populations that are presumed by HUD to be made up primarily of low to moderate income persons, including abused children, elderly persons, battered spouses, homeless persons, adults meeting Bureau of Census definition of severely disabled persons, illiterate adults, persons with AIDS, and migrant farm workers. Examples of area benefit activities may include street and sidewalk reconstruction, ADA curb ramps and accessibility improvements, neighborhood street lighting. Area benefit activities benefit residential areas or area that is primarily low income. Okay, eligible or allowed costs under the CDBG program must be directly related to the provision of services. Here are some examples of eligible public service costs. Personnel, staff, or salary or benefits. The salaries must be only for persons involved in direct client services. Also, public services funded cannot be used for administrative costs. Office facility rental or lease costs, materials and supplies, communication, travel and mileage. At least 51% of the program beneficiaries must be low or moderate income for public service activities. For public service activities, there's a minimum ask of $10,000 up to a maximum ask of $25,000 per activity. Eligible and allowed cost continued. Capital projects are eligible as long as they meet a priority need identified in the 5-year plan. Some examples of eligible activities include property acquisition, rehabilitation, construction costs, architecture and engineering services. Public facility projects must benefit at least 51% low and moderate income residents. There is no minimum or maximum funding request for capital improvement projects. Procurement rules vary based on dollar amount and type of purchase. Different procurement methods may be required depending on the scope of the project. Any CDBG funding, construction, or rehabilitation project must follow federal labor standards. These rules protect workers, ensure fair wages, and promote safe and equitable employment. Requirements apply even if CDBG funds cover only part of the construction activity. Projects may require payment of prevailing wage, permits, public noticing, and contingencies. These requirements vary by project and can be discussed individually. Okay, the next slide is going over acquisition projects. Applications may be submitted for the acquisition of real property or land for future development of affordable rental housing to provide permanent or transitional housing for low and moderate income persons. If your application is for the acquisition of vacant land, an affordable housing project must be developed and occupied within a 4-year period from commitment date. Please note that acquisition by a private for-profit entity is not eligible under the Code of Federal Regulations. Like capital projects, there is also no minimum or maximum ask on acquisition projects. Finally, if you are requesting funds for acquisition and your proposal is chosen for funding, you will be required to turn in additional information at a later date. Okay. All right, now let's go over some ineligible costs. Various costs are ineligible for CDBG funding. Generally, the following types of activities are ineligible. Most activities that do not serve primarily low and moderate income individuals or households, programs or services that promote religion, political activities, marketing, incentives, or fundraising, payment of debt or expenses incurred prior to agreement date of July 1, 2026, entertainment, furnishing, or personal property, furnishing, sorry, equipment purchased, but there are some exceptions to that. Construction of new housing, funds cannot be used for actual construction, but acquisition of the land to development affordable housing is eligible. Okay, next we're going to be talking about some of the administrative requirements for subrecipients that must be followed when receiving CDBG funding. First, the subrecipient must track eligibility of program recipients. This includes the submission of quarterly reports on your activity. The reports will require income and household characteristics of the CDBG beneficiaries. These reports are required and completed in Zoom Grants, which is the web-based program that the city uses for our grants. All costs must be documented and will be provided as backup to invoices. Invoices are also submitted through Zoom Grants. Please note all costs are paid on a reimbursement basis. Additionally, reimbursement requests cannot be paid until the associated quarterly report is submitted and reviewed. Funds may only be used for persons residing within the city of Roseville limits. We cannot provide funding for the unincorporated areas of Roseville. We will post a link in the chat for the HUD guidebook titled A Handbook for CDBG Subrecipients on Administrative Systems. This handbook was created to guide subrecipients in understanding the administrative requirements governing the use of federal funds for implementing CDBG program and activities. Okay, so based on our prior year funding, we are estimating the 2026-2027 CDBG grant to be roughly $700,000. We may also have additional prior year program funds that will be available to expend, which will be calculated and determined as the new program year approaches. Of the total grant the city receives, 20% will go towards administration of the grant. 20% is the maximum allowed for administration admin costs. The amount of CDBG funds used for public services shall not exceed 15% of the total grant awarded to the city. Roughly $105,000 will go towards public service activities such as the ones we discussed a couple of slides back. Also, please remember that each public service activity is currently limited to $25,000 max per program. Lastly, the remaining funding after the 20% cost for admin and the 15% for public services can go towards improvements, rehabilitation of homes for low-income homeowners, and public facility costs. So it's estimated that there will be about $455,000 that can go towards these sorts of costs. Okay, lastly, funding notes. All projects must meet readiness criteria to ensure that the funds will be used in the program year that they are awarded, thereby allowing the city to remain in compliance with HUD regulations. Also, please note that the allocations of public service related funds must be expended by the end of the program year, which is June 30th, 2027. All organizations applying for funding must have a non-discriminatory policy for memberships and access to services. Okay, so we will take a pause for any questions. We will unmute you, and then next Christine will be talking about the HPRR.
So we need to know anything. So, yes, we would need to see some sort of proof of address.
You can email them to maybe get back to me.
Oh, to Amy, yeah, but yeah, I mean, we would need to see, oh, she can't hear me. Amy, can you hear us?
You're just speaking on the quiet side.
Okay. Okay, yes. Like, okay, there we go. Amy, yes, we would need to see some sort of, they would need to show some sort of proof of eligibility of address. Whether it be a-
Could suffice.
Yeah.
I mean, if they live in Roseville, they're kind of.
Such as a utility bill. I don't know if you can hear Trisha. Any other questions on CDBG? Okay. Yes, Amy, thank you. Okay, so now we're starting the homeless prevention and rapid rehousing portion of the presentation. Okay, so homeless prevention rapid rehousing, or HPRR for short. So activities for this grant may include assisting residents who are experiencing homelessness or are at risk of homelessness, including but not limited to providing rapid rehousing, rental assistance, supportive or case management services that allow people to obtain and retain housing, and operating and capital costs for navigation centers and emergency shelters. Although you will use the same application process as CDBG, a separate application is required for HPRR funds. The funds must be used to provide services within the city limits of Roseville. In the past, the city managed HPRR funds on behalf of the city of Rockland. Going forward, the city will no longer manage Rockland's funds, and the HPRR funds will be used exclusively for Roseville. An estimated $250,000 will be available. The minimum award amount is $25,000 per program. There is not a maximum award at this time. HPRR funding sources include the Low and Moderate Income Fund at $250,000 and funding from the state's Permanent Local Housing Allocation, or PLHA program. Once the state opens the PLHA application, Roseville will apply for funding for the upcoming year. However, the exact amount has not been determined. For the current program year 25-26, for reference, the city received $195,609 to use for PLHA funds. Once we receive that information, we'll update you on our website. In order to receive PLHA funding, applicants must serve households earning no more than 30% AMI, as well as provide assistance in a manner consistent with the Housing First practices and sections listed here. Applicants whose programs do not comply with Housing First practices will only be eligible to apply for the low mod funding. If any applicants need help defining Housing First practices, please let us know. Our contact information will be on the final slide.
The 2026-27 funding cycle will begin 7/1/26 and end on 6/30/2027. Reporting will be biannual with reports beginning on July 1 and ending 12/31 and beginning January 1 and ending June 30. That concludes my section on homeless prevention and rapid rehousing. And now this section is just the overall application process and requirements. So this covers both CDBG and HPRR. So our applications will close on Monday, February 2nd at 5 p.m. And we do have it listed elsewhere here in the presentation, but just a reminder that if you are submitting an application, you do need to start with a pre-application, and that is due by tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. For both the CDBG and HPRR applications, we will need your organization's tax ID number as well as your unique entity ID or UEI number. So the UEI replaced the old DUNS number, which is now issued through SAM.gov. The DUNS number that used to be used is no longer in use, and all federal registration, searching, and data entry now require the UEI. If you already have a UEI, please include it in your application. And if you do not have a UEI at the time of application, you will need to obtain one and provide it as a condition of receiving funding. If your organization is already registered in SAM.gov, you can look up your UEI using the link we've shared in the chat. If you're a new entity, you can request your UEI by going to SAM.gov, and you may need to complete the registration process. If you have any questions about how to get your UEI number, please reach out to us. And there's a link posted in the chat that can help with that as well. For CDBG and HPRR, overall, the applications are reviewed and ranked based on the criteria listed here. Just give you a moment to look over that. Okay, here's an overview of our program year schedule. Again, reiterate, the pre-applications are due by tomorrow, and then we will be reviewing and approving those by next week so that you can continue on to get the full application completed by the February 2nd deadline. Once the applications are reviewed, then we may have questions for you. So please, make sure you have the checking your Zoom grants if you have any emails from us. You, your staff, and your clients are welcome to attend the May 6th City Council meeting at 6 p.m. in support of the CDBG and HPRR programs. And please note that these dates are subject to change. And let's see, the link to the city Zoom grants landing page will be posted in the chat. And so that link is where you would click to apply. If you have any trouble opening or filling out the application, please contact city staff or Zoom grants immediately. Zoom grants does have their technical support. We have it listed, their email address on the slide. They're usually very quick to reply if any issues. And then if you haven't used Zoom grants before, these are just a few tips that we've received in the past. You want to make sure if you're typing that they will autosave, but you want to click outside of the box where you're typing. If you're pasting from Word doc and into Zoom grants, you want to select paste as plain text. And multiple people can work on the same application at the same time, but not the same exact question at the same time. And email address contact. So there is going to be one main email address. And so it's helpful to have that main email address as a shared email address if possible, for your organization as the main contact. That way, if there's any staffing changes, there's not any issues with getting into your application. There are collaborator accounts, but the collaborator accounts are limited in what they can do. So again, it's having the shared credentials and a shared access to an email account, make sure that you have access to Zoom grants. Okay, we'll pause here if any other questions have come up.
We did have a couple of questions from Chris Salinas in the chat. It sounded like they were both regarding HPRR.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
address them?
Oh, let me see. Can HPRR funds cover salaries for housing, location, and navigation? And what is the overhead allowance if allowed? For number one, yes, housing, location, and navigation. I'm gonna get back to Chris. Chris, can I get back to you on those two questions?
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
really, I specified housing, location, and navigation, but really what I'm wondering is, can we bill any salaries to this RFP, or is it strictly in, is it strictly tied to housing related costs?
For HPRR, I think it has to be related. Yeah, it has to be related to housing. Yeah, to housing related costs.
So meaning like it has to be it has to be like a direct transfer to a vendor, right? So like rent, security deposit, hotel, like a hotel voucher, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's typically if you're paying for covering utilities for someone, then yes, we would need to see that check stub that you paid directly the city of Roseville or you paid the landlord directly.
Okay,
If that-
and sorry, since you're answering the question, is this based on reimbursement or is this a lump sum payment before the grant begins? Or what's the
It's not a lump sum. Yeah, you do have to invoice and then
Okay.
we reimburse.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then the other question was just, is there an overhead allowance?
For HPRR, I need to look at that and get back
Okay.
to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Mhm.
For the pre-application, is that something that gets approved before you can submit the full application? And when is that notification?
So it ends tomorrow, and then Christine and I have a meeting on Monday that will be reviewing those, so we would hope by Tuesday.
Okay.
And then somebody, I believe, did ask earlier, I got an email earlier, if they will be like get a status update. I am new to it, so I don't know, but feel free to check back with us if you guys log in. I'm not sure if it sends that email notification. We weren't sure.
Zoom grants. I think that something should go back to you saying that we approved it. I'm fairly sure. So
This is only the second year we've done it this way.
yeah,
And last year
I'm
was our
trying to
pilot
remember.
program, but it worked really, really
It
well.
did, yeah.
It did.
Like I think people seem to get
Yeah.
notified.
So if you don't hear from us, check back Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can always log in and it should tell you like if it's approved. Yeah,
And the pre-application is really simple.
it is. It's like maybe 8 or 9 questions. It's pretty, I just want to kind of screen to make sure that what you're applying for makes sense. Or sometimes you're applying for HPRR and maybe you should have done, CDBG or vice versa.
Or the money is it's too high. We just really wanted, we've received a lot of applications that people have put a lot of time and energy into that are completely, we cannot move forward with. And it's like, if we had talked to them ahead of time, we could have given them better direction. And so that's what this is doing. We're really trying to make sure that we're getting quality applications every time.
Mhm. See any other question?
Contact info on the next one.
So working through the application process, if you're interested in receiving this PowerPoint, let us know in the chat if we already have your email address. You don't have to post it again, just let us know you're interested. And then if anyone is new to Zoom grants and you need any help, you can stay on and we can share some additional resources with you, or just post a little message in the chat and we have a couple, like a slideshow and a little handout that gives you some of the overview of the information about Zoom grants too. Otherwise, that's it. If there's any other questions, feel free to ask us, and thank you for joining.
Quick question then, how will I be able to get an email answer from you regarding the overhead and the salary question?
Is your email here listed in the chat already?
Yes, it's listed in the chat.
Okay, perfect. That's all I need. I'll look. Oh. Okay, I see it. I see it.
Thank you. Okay, I
Okay,
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and end now. Thank you, everyone. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact us. Yeah.